I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to Pekin Community High School for a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the roll call. Mr. White.
Allison Greedy. Here. Vera. Here. Holheimer.
Here.
Howard. Here. Huey. Here. Wrigley. Here. Hill.
Here. All members of the board are present. So we'll move on with the approval of minutes. Those being the Student Achievement Committee meeting of October 18th, the Policy Committee meeting of October 23rd, the regular board meeting of October 23rd, and the closed session of the regular board meeting of October 23rd.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Mr. Wrigley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vera. Questions, comments, or corrections to the minutes? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Wrigley. Aye. Vera.
Aye.
Allison Greedy. Aye. Holheimer.
Aye.
Howard. Aye. Huey.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. Communication, public comments, and participation, starting with board applause. Mr. Howard, we'll start down with you today.
Sorry to say I don't have one tonight.
All right. Mr. Huey?
Mine is brief, but I'd like to congratulate the girls volleyball team on all of their successes this year and getting down to state. An achievement in and of itself. So congratulations to them on a great season.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Mr. Wrigley?
Nothing for me this evening.
All right. Mrs. Hoheimer?
Nothing for me this evening.
Mr. Allison Green?
Nothing for me.
Mr. Bear?
I don't want to steal any upcoming thunder, but I'm going to. Very briefly. It's something very near and dear to my heart from my time on student council, way back when we still had 19 in front of the years. The canned food drive, I continue to see it as a success, and this year, not unlike any years past, so congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vera. And we'll move on with student council report. Katie?
Good evening. Canned food drive was very successful this year. We collected more cans from advisors than we have over the past few years. The top 3 advisory classes who won a pizza party were Mrs. Deliri's, Mrs. Sandberg's, and Mrs. Johnson's classes. The top student, Cole Russell, brought in over 1,100 cans by himself. We delivered to 100 families again this year, and we were able to provide each family with a lot of canned goods, a turkey, gallon of milk, and some rolls. Next week is our Winter Spirit Week, and December 8th is the Life Skills Party. For the Life Skills Party, we planned a space-themed party with games and activities that apply to the theme. We will provide lunch to our friends from the Life Skills classes and have lots of fun playing games with them. Another upcoming event that all of Student Council will do is Santa Calls. We have sent our sign-up sheets to the grade schools so that parents can sign up. Each member of Student Council will pretend to be a Christmas elf and call children to ask them what they want for Christmas. It is a very fun activity that I personally love doing each year. Thank you for your time. I look forward to next month's Student Council update.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any public comments or participation on a non-agenda item? All right, moving on with the approval of claims.
Mr. President, I move for the payment of monthly warrants in the amount of $2,013,113.56 per summary information found in the agenda and detailed information found also on the agenda under board bills and manual checks.
Motion by Mr. Alessandrini. Do we have a second? Mrs. Hoheimer with the second. Questions or comments? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Allison Greedy.
Aye.
Holheimer.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Wrigley. Aye. Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 5.0 new business, closed session. Request for closed session regarding the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, and litigation when an action against, affecting, on, or behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case The basis for the findings shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. Do I have a motion to that effect? Motion by Mr. Howard,
Second.
second by Mrs. Hoheimer. Questions or comments? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Howard.
Aye.
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Allison Greenie.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Wrigley.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye, motion carries. We will be back as soon as we can. First item on the agenda is 5.2, the consent agenda. Is there any item that a board member wishes to have removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, be looking to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Huey,
Second.
second by Mr. Howard. Questions or comments on the consent agenda? Dr. Owens, can you explain the donation for us?
Sure. Rose Fagliano was a 1944 graduate of Pekin High who died this past spring. I believe that Beverly Scott is her niece. And so I don't believe that Ms. Fagliano was ever married. So I think probably next of kin was the niece who called and asked if she could donate the $20,000 to set up a scholarship for the next 5 years, where there would be 4 $1,000 scholarships given each year for the next 5 years for people going to ICC. So she called and asked for to be able to do that, and that's why that's on there. So for the next 5 years, we'll have 4 more $1,000 scholarships for people who apply for ICC. So what will happen is we'll go ahead and set up the application with our common, we're creating a common application form for all of the Pekin High scholarships that are awarded. Carla has the check on her desk, and so if accepted, then we'll put that into an account for that and make sure that that's used appropriately for the next 5 years. And
Where does the interest then go on that money?
well, so we talked about that because it is going to generate some interest.
I mean, we'll have to figure it out in terms of, you know, do we, that last year, potentially give, you know, another scholarship, or depending on what the interest is, you know, kind of monitor it that way. But
Okay, or it could just go to the PCHS scholarship.
it
fund.
could,
I
yeah.
mean, as long as, I guess, the donor is all right with that.
Right.
I mean, obviously,
Well, and I think she just really doesn't,
she
I think
doesn't,
she wants to give the money and make sure, you know, it's handled appropriately, and doesn't really want to worry about it too much, so that's why it's on us.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Huey.
Yes.
Howard.
Aye.
Allison Greenie.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Wrigley. Aye. Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to policies for a first reading, Mr. Wrigley.
Policy Committee is presenting 4 policies and 1 exhibit for first reading as follows. Please note that 11 additional policies are not included because either 1, suggested press changes considered during the review were deemed unnecessary or undesirable, or 2, press changes were confined to footnotes or legal references and policy text was left unaltered. 3, corresponding administrative procedures are being formulated and or altered to meet the needs of the district. Or 4, the district currently does not have a version of the policy and it was decided not to recommend the press document for adoption. These policies are 2210, 2260. The exhibit is 330. Policy 5180 and policy 870. The recommendation is for board approval to lay over these policies and the exhibit for action at a future date.
That action comes on behalf of Policy Committee, so it doesn't require a second. So any questions or comments about the policies for a first reading? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Wrigley.
Aye.
Allison Greenie.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. Policies are presented for future action at the next board meeting. Request for approval for the Health Life Safety Amendment number 18. Dr. Owens.
On page 226, you will see the document that we would like approval for in order to send our estimates and spec work to ISB for approval, including to replace our building B boiler pumps and heat exchangers, as well as replace existing electrical service that has been in our E and F buildings. These two recommendations and change in our health life safety amendment are because we have health life safety funds left from other projects that we have done that we need to spend the money, and these projects have not yet been approved by ISB for money to be spent on. So approval by you would be the next step in this process and allow me to submit this health life safety amendment to ISB for hopeful approval so that we can get these projects completed this coming summer. So the recommendation is for approval of this amendment number 18 as presented.
On behalf of the Operations and Maintenance Committee, I make that motion as we discussed it this afternoon.
Motion by Mr. Alessandrini and the Operation Maintenance Committee. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Alessandrini.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Holheimer.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Wrigley.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye, motion carries. Item 5.5, PCHS Dragon Athletic Boosters Sponsorship Recognition Plan for the 2017-2018 Winter Sports. Dr. Owens.
So we've talked about throughout this year the ability for the new booster club to recognize its sponsors, and knowing that we're still working through policy and future procedures as to what this looks like. We talked about being able for me to come back to you with what the plan was for winter sports, knowing that we're now going to be inside, and how do we recognize our booster sponsors. So the recommendation is to allow the Dragon Athletic Boosters to hang a TV to the left of the main concession stand. This TV was already donated through the swim boosters last year and is not being used by the coach, and so it's already just there sitting in a box. So if we do that and they have software that they can purchase, that'll allow them not only to post the menu of the concession stand, but also then to scroll through the logos of the corporate sponsors that are currently members of the booster organization. In addition to that, then the thought would be in the gym on the, I don't know my directions, so hold on a second, southwest wall of Hawkins Gym. It's the wall that's right above the entrance door into the girls' athletic locker room, is to hang those corrugated plastic signs. They're similar to yard signs, so they're lightweight in 3 different sizes based on levels of donation. They can be hung with just double-sided Velcro for the time being, so if there's a change for next year, if there's a more permanent desire, way to recognize sponsors, that gives them a little bit of time, but it still allows them to recognize sponsors. So if approved, then the thought would be to get those signs made, with the biggest ones obviously on the top, and then working themselves down the wall. I think for this year we can fit them all on that one wall. So that would be the recommendation for the Dragon Athletic Boosters to be able to recognize their sponsors at this point.
Heard the recommendation from the administration. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wrigley,
Second.
second by Mr. Huey. Questions or comments? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Wrigley.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Alessandrini.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Holheimer.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye, motion carries. 5.6, request permission to seek bids for various building and grounds projects. Mrs. Schaefer.
The O&M committee met tonight to discuss various projects that we have coming up for the 2018-2019 school year, which are large enough projects that would require us to seek bid on those projects. 2 of them obviously are pending the approval of the amendment that Dr. Owens just recommended, but the 4 projects that we would need to seek bid on are the last section of the roof, the F ceilings and lights, the 1963 electrical upgrade, which is on that amendment, and the 98B boiler upgrade, which is also on that that amendment. So the recommendation tonight would be to seek board approval to go out for bids for various buildings and grounds projects subject to provisions of the Prevailing Wage Act.
On behalf of the Operations and Maintenance Committee, I make that motion.
That doesn't require a second, so we'll go ahead and open that up for questions or comments. Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Allison Greenie.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Ridley.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. 5.7, Unlimited Insurance Renewal, Mrs. Schaefer.
Our insurance policies come up December 1st, and so we are seeking approval for the new policy year. And good news that our quote actually went down about 3.5% or $12,000. Last year we paid $341,000 approximately, and the renewal came in at just a little over $329,000. Most notably, that difference is in the work comp area, which is where we pay the bulk of our premium, and so we're continuing to see a decrease in claims. So that's a good thing because that directly affects what we pay. So the recommendation tonight would be board approval to renew the district's insurance package through Liberty Mutual for an annual premium of $329,078 as presented.
Heard the recommendation from the administration. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Alessandrini. Questions or comments? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Vera.
Aye.
Allison Greenie.
Aye.
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Ridley.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. 5.8, Extension of the Intergovernmental Agreement for Pupil Transportation Services, Mrs. Schaefer.
We are presented with a renewal package for the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Pekin for transportation at the end of October, and that is in your support materials. The quote was for 2 years at a 3% increase each of those 2 years to continue our service with the city. So the administration would like to recommend board approval to extend the intergovernmental agreement between Pekin Community High School District 303, Pekin Grade School District 108, and the City of Pekin for pupil transportation services at an estimated total cost of $1,272,037 for the 2018-2019 school year and $1,310,198 for the 2019-2020 school year as presented.
Heard the recommendation from the administration. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Howard,
Second.
second by Mr. Huey. Questions or comments on the recommendation? Mr. White, would you call the roll?
Howard.
Aye.
Huey.
Aye.
Allison Greenie.
Aye.
Vera.
Aye.
Hoheimer.
Nay.
Ridley.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 5.9, Estimated Tax Levy, Mrs. Schaefer.
You should have in your support material, or actually, I don't know if you do have it in your support materials, the presentation. I'm just going to put it up here actually for you tonight, and then we'll include it in board book for you. Hopefully this won't flip through like my budget hearing. I can stay on task here. So just a quick reminder that we are a PTEL district, and what that means, it's obviously designed to limit increases in property tax extensions, and so each year we're limited to either the lesser of what CPI is, the Consumer Price Index, or 5%. Basically CPI is inflation. So this year's CPI is 2.1%, and so this levy that I'm presenting tonight is the 2017 levy. Taxes due in 2018, which is our 2018-19 budget. This is just a history of CPI rates. Last year it was at 0.7%, so we did see a significant increase this year at 2.1%. And I'll show you on the next slides how that then affects our tax rate. This is just a graph of what we've seen as far as EAV in Tazewell County. Did see a little over a 2% increase in EAV from last year. Last year we were at about $638 million in assessed value for the property taxes that feed into the high school. This year we're estimating approximately $651 million. That information comes directly from the Tazewell County assessor. We included in this EAV is also about $6.2 million of new property, which also increased slightly over last year. You can kind of see that in the graph. 2010 always looks like it's kind of an anomaly, and that was the year that we had a TIF district come off, and so all of that came in as new property. Other than that, it's been fairly consistent over the last few years. Basically, when you're in a PTEL district, you are limited to CPI. However, you can capture all of the tax dollars on new property. But that new property is still assessed at a limiting tax rate. So this is just the calculation that you do to figure out what that limiting rate is. So basically what it's saying is you can only charge $1.94 for all new property in the district. So that's an estimate based on what we know is our prior year extension, and you multiply that by the 2.1%, and then you divide that by your estimated EAV to come out and take out the new construction to come out to that rate. It's kind of a convoluted formula, but you have to get to that rate to figure out then, I don't know why that looks like that, to see that then in this calculation what you're actually getting. So there's a lot of numbers on this spreadsheet, but the main thing that's important to know is that our rate last year was approximately $1.92, and this year we're estimating at about $1.94. So it's about a 2-cent increase is what we're estimating. Part of that's driven because CPI went out to 2.1, but EAV didn't go up dollar for dollar, and so that's obviously going to raise your rate up a little bit more. So we're anticipating about a 2-cent increase. What that means is that we have a capped increase of about $379,000. So that would be new dollars coming into the district as a result of this rate. Part of that comes from new property, and part of that comes from existing property. Existing property is about $257,000, and new property is about $121,000 of that amount. Our bond rate is staying about the same at about 23 cents out of the total tax rate. So the total tax rate is estimated at about $2.18. This is just showing you where we've been, our actual tax rate on this graph since 2008. So you can see that we've steadily increased those tax rates. Previous years, back in like 2008, 2009, 2010, and some of those years before we started gradually increasing, we were able to do bond abatements. We obviously have not been able to do that for several years, but what we would do is basically essentially pay for the bonds and not pass that rate onto the taxing bodies. And so that's why we were able to keep our tax rate so low. That was also in a time when we were seeing excess revenue in our ed fund, and we were able to pass that on then to the taxpayers. So unfortunately, we've not been in a position to do that in the past several years, and so that's why you've seen the steady increase in the tax rate. This is just a summary. Really what we do is I base all of these figures on estimates that we've received from the county clerk and from the tax assessor to come up to where we think we will be. Obviously, there's always variables in there that could change. Those numbers could look different, when the final numbers come out. So what we do is always inflate what we submit on the certificate of tax levy just a little bit. And so I've inflated the numbers that you'll see next month on the certificate of tax levy form by like 1%, just to make sure that in case there's a number in there that was wrong, that we are capturing everything that we need to capture. So this is just showing that the projected rate is $1.94. What we'll probably put on the certificate of tax levy looks more like $1.96, but because we won't get that, they'll push us back down on it based on actual numbers and only give you what you can capture. So it will push us back down to the actual rate, but that's just been past practice to do that just to make sure that we don't miss anything. This is just kind of a highlight, just to I don't know how many of you have heard about Senate Bill 851, but this is a recent Senate bill that has come out. This is just some of the highlights, and this is obviously very small, but we've had various conversations, and I know that there's been a lot of conversations among superintendents about what this is going to look like, and it looks different for different counties. There's certain things that, like in the Cook, Lake, McHenry counties, that look different than what it looks like for Tazewell County. But one of the things that's fairly significant that's in this bill is that they are proposing to increase the senior citizen homestead exemption from $5,000 to $8,000. So essentially, if you're 65, I believe it's 65 or older, on your tax bill, you automatically get an exemption off your taxable value. So they're proposing to increase that from $5,000 to $8,000. The other one that's fairly significant is the general homestead exemption. So if you own your home and you live in your home, you automatically get the $6,000 off your taxable value, and they're looking to, they're proposing to increase that to $10,000. So on the surface, it looks like a great benefit to property tax owners because it's less taxable value to base their rate on. However, in a PTEL district, essentially what would happen is just going to decrease the overall EAV, and so it's less dollars to spread that tax rate over. So it really, I mean, what happens in a PTEL district, it's going to drive your rate up. So if we chose to, so on this next slide, I just called the county assessor and I said, how many exemptions do we have that feed into Pekin High School? Like how many people right now have a owner occupied exemption? And that number was 13,272. So if you took that number times the increase of $4,000, that's $16 million. In senior homestead increase, we have 4,135 people currently who have that exemption on their tax bill. You multiply that by a $3,000 increase, that's $9 million. So overall, that's an additional $25 million in tax exemptions. So if we did nothing and we just kept if we decided we're just going to keep our rate the same and we won't choose to capture those dollars that are lost, if you multiply that EAV amount or taxable value that's lost times our current tax rate, that's a almost $540,000 loss to our district. Essentially, what would happen though, if we said, no, we're still going to capture all the money we can under PTEL and we're just going to increase our rate to make sure that we still get the same amount of money, it's about an 11-cent increase to our tax rate if we wanted everything to look the same today as it does regardless if this bill passes. So, not sure, I think it hasn't gone to the House and I'm sure there'll be more vetting of this, but it is, I think on the surface for taxing bodies or taxing districts that aren't under PTEL, this is a way to help taxpayers, but in a PTEL district, this is just the fallout of what essentially you're just increasing the tax rate. So so I don't know what will happen with this or anything, but just kind of keeping it on our radar to keep an eye on. So we'll see. Just in summary, we'll have board action on the levy at the December 18th meeting. That's then when we have to we'll file a certificate of tax levy with the county clerk after that meeting. And we don't have to have a public hearing or truth in taxation because what we've requested is an increase is less than 5%. Any questions?
Yes, the only question is, when you showed the slide on the EAV increase, that seems rather large. Is there?
I think they had an overall, last year there was an overall 1% increase, I think, in Pekin Township. I think they've reassessed other townships. I think Groveland Township was on the, because we all got those, was on the docket for an increase. And then new property, there's one value that came off of an abatement that went into new property, but I don't think it was very significant. It was about $538,000. Only one property that the abatement had expired, USA Rail Company, so it came on as new property because its 5 years was up. But other than that, yeah, the new property was about $5.7 million without that. So yeah, it does seem. But I think what's happening is they're starting to apply. They're applying factors, across the board in various townships. I know last year was Pekin Township, and this year I know Groveland got hit and some of the other smaller ones. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mrs. Schaefer.
I'll make sure to. I apologize we didn't have that presentation, so we'll get that sent to you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to reports, starting with resignations, Mrs. Hoheimer.
Yes, we had 4 resignations this month. Tina Dawson, a personal assistant at Schramm School. Tammy Dewitz, a personal assistant in the special education department. Bill McCormick, assistant coach for the boys tennis program. And Deb Turner, personal assistant at Schramm School. That's it.
Thank you very much. 6.2 Policy Committee, Mr. Wrigley.
We did not meet this month.
All right. 6.3 Operations and Maintenance, Mr. Alessandrini.
We met prior to this meeting, and you've taken action on items that we discussed.
Thank you. LMRC, Dr. Owens.
We did not meet this month.
Student Achievement Committee.
We met last week, the week before, and continued the discussion. Mrs. Cousins-Martin led that discussion around grading practices and continuing to discuss what it was we wanted to focus on this year. So for the next month or two, we're going to talk about the grading, basically Skyward practices and what gets put into Skyward and what doesn't get put into Skyward, and how every teacher uses Skyward, so that we're a little bit more consistent in terms of how we report things out, so parents can be a little bit more astute in terms of understanding how grades are figured here. So that was what we worked on this past month.
Thank you very much. FOIA requests.
Did not have any.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
Just a couple reminders. I know it's in the announcements, but this Saturday at 8 a.m. is when we are doing the Jordan Bastien Rifle Range dedication. So if you can make it, we'd love to have you there. It's going to be in the JROTC hallway, and that's where the plaque's going to be. So we're going to have some chairs set up. So if you wouldn't mind letting me know if you do intend to come, we'll make sure we have a spot for you. But that will be this coming Saturday. Also a reminder that we are planning the State of the District event on January 29th. It's a Monday. What we would like to do, we ordered invitations today. It's kind of like planning a wedding. So we have an invitation list right now of probably close to between 350 and 400 people in terms of business owners and other people in the community. But wanted to know from all of you, if you have specific people that you would like to be invited, if you would email me those people and their address if you have them, otherwise we can find them, of people that you would want to make sure that are invited. We'll cross-reference that with a list we already have and make sure we get people invited that you want to be there. So if you could do that for me, if there's anyone that specifically you want invited in the next week or so, invitations will come in next week, and we're going to try to get everything addressed so that they go out over Christmas break. And obviously you're all invited as well, but if you have specific people that you would like invited, we'd love to have them there. So that's going on. We did offer a second tour this Thursday at 6 o'clock. So far no one has signed up. So we promoted it again today via social media. So if you have anybody express interest, let them know that that's available. I know it's a busy time of year. There's a lot going on, so we're not going to give up on it. But we'll probably offer them in the spring again. But just wanted to give you an update on that as well. So.
Thank you very much. Curriculum update, Mrs. Bloom.
In December, I will bring to you new course proposals, and actually we only have one this year. And proposals is a brand new course, which would be dual credit with ICC Economics 110, 111. We are still trying to round out some of our dual credit offerings to students, kind of pushing more into the core options. We have quite a few already in CT and are always exploring more, but we're kind of trying to push out a little bit more into our core classes too, in addition to our AP. So that will be the only new course that I will be bringing to you next month for approval.
Thank you very much. Moving on to number 7, future agenda items. Are there any agenda items a board member wishes to place on a future agenda? All right, moving on to announcements. Dr. Owens already mentioned it, but the Jordan Bastien Rifle Range will be dedicated on Saturday, December 2nd at 8 a.m. Please let Dr. Owens know if you plan to attend. And 8.2 is the next regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Education is it's Monday, December 18th. That's right here in the boardroom at 6:30. So I know of no further business to come before the board, so we stand adjourned.